Welcome to DanceFluent, a guide to dance education. I'm your host, Desiree Graham. On today's episode, we'll be discussing the 5 W's and 1 H of dance education. So let's get started. Alright, so today's episode is going to be just a brief overview of some questions covering the topics of the 5 W's and the 1 H. We all know that the who, what, where, when, why, and how. These are just a few questions. There may be more that come up in the future and we can do a follow-up. So let's get into this. We are going to start with the who. One of the questions I often get asked as a studio owner is, who is dance for? Is it for boys, girls, what ages, all that sort of stuff? Dance is really for anyone and everyone. It's not just about people who want to become a professional dancer or teacher or choreographer. It's really for any child. So children who like movement and music, who are high energy, who are performative by nature, but also children who are shy and reserved. It's a really great way for children to express themselves. So getting them into the studio is just a great way for them to find their own voice and perform. They can use their body to tell a story. They can use their facial expressions. It's just a really great outlet for them. We all know that children are naturally dancers. They move around, they hear music, and they're just into it. So getting them into dance it's just great for kids, all kinds of kids, boys, girls, everybody. Moving on. What is a dance class? Well, generally a dance class will follow a kind of structure depending on the age and level of the students. So most classes will involve some sort of warm-up activity, whether it be jumping jacks, some sort of cardio-inducing activity, something to get their heart rate going and get them a little warmed up. They may do some stretching to start depending on the style of dance, and then they'll usually be moving on to some sort of movement. So, for example, in ballet, things that involve balance. In tap, they'll do some ankle exercises and maybe some steps on the spot, and then generally some traveling steps, jumps and turns across the floor. Some classes may involve a small combination of steps at the end, and then usually sort of a thank you at the end of class. Some classes for younger children may involve a free dance portion, creative movement portion, and they may end with some sort of reward for the child. Generally, classes follow a similar structure, but genre to genre they may differ based on what is required. For example, in tap, it's more about the musicality. There may be more on-the-spot steps. There may be more steps that involve just sort of doing a single step repeatedly to build up muscle memory. Similarly, in acro, you may do more repetitive things. Jazz may involve more stylistic things. Ballet is also quite repetitive. Ballet involves a lot more variety because of doing things turned out, and it's a lot different. So there's kind of a basic structure of what is a dance class. What should you expect? You should expect that your child will come into class, regardless of their age, and be given some sort of warming up exercise, regardless of the time of year, whether it's hot outside or cold outside, and some sort of introductory stretching at the beginning of class. This may not be required for tap in the same way because you're not doing as much flexibility things, but especially for jazz, tap, and especially for acro, there should be a very long period of warming up and stretching before any of the skills are being attempted. You want to make sure that that class is not going to cause your child to be unprepared for what they're going to be doing in class. Another what is, what types of classes are there? So we will deep dive into some of these classes in the future, but a general dance studio will involve the following classes. A dance studio that is geared towards kids generally. They'll usually have some sort of toddler or preschool program, which generally focuses around sort of a ballet, maybe an acro or jazz syllabus. As they get older, they might add other things like tap, maybe jazz and acro, different varieties of combination type classes. The general styles that you will see at some studios, most studios, besides a ballroom specific studio, would be ballet, tap, jazz. Acro is quite popular now. You may also see things like lyrical, modern or contemporary, hip hop. There may be also things like boys only classes or specific extra classes. There are a wide variety of classes. General consensus of studios is ballet base is where kids will start. Very young taught classes will involve a ballet base and maybe incorporate one other style. Generally, you want to have a ballet foundation to move into the other styles that I listed. There are also studios that are strictly hip-hop studios. There are studios that are strictly ballroom studios. A ballroom studio may include ballroom styles such as like traditional ballroom styles involving like waltz, different types of waltzes, Viennese waltzes, etc., or Latin style. Those studios are more specifically geared towards ballroom. There are some studios in different areas that involve both, sort of the ballet, tap, jazz, as well as ballroom in their studio. They incorporate both. Other things that you might see is some studios also might have baton programs, other sort of specialty class programs. Some studios have teams, so they might have like a jazz team where you really, really work on jazz technique. There's a lot of variables out there. That's just a little bit of what you can see. Where should I be taking my child for their first dance class? There are a lot of different places that offer dance classes. Because they're so popular among children, there are a variety of different places that offer these classes, including community centers. Some fitness centers may offer them in certain capacities, and then of course a traditional dance studio. How do you decide of which place is best for you? A lot of people lean towards community centers or even fitness center dance classes for children when they're first starting. The main reason for this is that a lot of these classes are offered in smaller sessions, meaning that the class would be 10 weeks or 12 weeks and would just be a class for that length of time with maybe a small performance at the end, but not a full-blown recital performance with hair and makeup and costumes. This can be a good introduction to your dance class for your child. However, you have to be aware that those community centers or fitness center classes may not be taught by highly qualified teachers. A lot of community centers or community associations that hire for these classes have a lower standard than a dance studio, and they will get usually young to mid-teens to come in and teach those classes who have very little experience working with children. They may not understand pedagogy or like how to maintain a classroom setting, how to keep kids engaged. They don't have the experience. And they should be given that experience, but it's difficult to control a class of young kids, and it is an acquired skill that a dance studio will have trained their teachers to be able to do. Dance studios generally have a higher standard of what they expect. Many dance studios require their teachers to have credentials in a variety of different disciplines or syllabi, and those teachers are teaching your child. So you also want to be aware that community associations or fitness centers or community centers may not have appropriate facilities for dance studio. It is commonly known that dance studios have specialty flooring. A community association may run their dance program in a gymnasium of a school. The gymnasium floor is not appropriate for dance class, especially if your child is wearing like a ballet shoe or a jazz shoe that is not a heavily soled shoe. This could lead to discomfort or potential injury because the flooring is not appropriate for dance. So just be aware when you're looking at those programs that they may not be an appropriate program for your child to safely start dance. When? One of the top 3 questions that I get when speaking to potential parents is, what age is the right age for my child to start dance? It's a really hard question to answer because there really is no correct answer. Yet, yes, there's classes that are offered for as early as 18 months. However, dance can be started at almost any age, even adults. The biggest component that is going to determine when is the right time for your child to start dance is when they want to start dance. If your child has the expression and movement that they just have to get out at 18 months, then you find that class and you take them to class. And they will love that moment. If your child doesn't realize until they're 7 that that's something they would like to try, that's the right time to start. If they don't realize until they're 15, there's plenty of dancers who start dancing at a later age and they do phenomenal. Misty Copeland is a soloist with the American Ballet Theater, and she didn't start dance until she was 13, and she's a beautiful ballerina. So there is no right age. It's when the child is ready. The biggest deterrent to a child enjoying their dance and thriving in dance is them being put in and not that it's their choice or that they want to take that class. So just because you see a class for 18 months or for 3 years or for 5 years, if your child doesn't have the desire to dance, it's not the right time. If they do eventually develop that desire, it will be the right time. So don't be deterred because you see an 18-month class and your child is 4 and they haven't started yet. It is the right time at any time for them to start, and they will thrive in that environment. Why? With all the children's activities, why choose dance? The short answer is dance is unlike any other activity you can enroll your child in. Yes, it's a physical activity that builds strength and endurance. It builds all sorts of great muscle awareness and body awareness, coordination. However, it is also a beautiful art form that teaches students how to express themselves. So, it's different. It's not a sport strictly, and it's not an art strictly. It balances these two worlds. It also is a form that uses multiple types of intelligence. Now, we have done a lot of research on these different types of intelligence for our studio, but some of these include bodily and kinesthetic intelligence, musical intelligence, and spatial intelligence. So how these play out is bodily and kinesthetic intelligence is about gracefulness, sense of timing, mind-body coordination, just being aware of your body. Dancers are acutely aware of how their body works. They know how things feel. They know how their body moves. They just have a different sense about it. Even from a very young age, they really understand how their body moves and works. And so they have a great deal of body and kinesthetic intelligence. Musical intelligence. So obviously dance involves putting steps and choreography to music. The entire class generally revolves around the use of music, different types of music, different speeds, tempos, different styles of music, even within one genre of class. In ballet, you might have a song that's a slow adagio song, and the next song is a quick tempo allegro song, and they all play within that class. Being able to recognize the tone of the song, understanding rhythm and pitch, and then the music connects to mathematic abilities. So, understanding the musicality, putting things together involves a lot of math. Kids don't realize how they're doing the math within that musicality and putting those things together. So it's a really important thing for them, not just for their dance, but for their actual schooling. And then spatial intelligence. So mental imagery, dynamic imagination, high creativity, but also understanding how they work within the space. So they may take their class in a studio that is a certain size, and when they move to a different space for a competition, for an exam, for a performance, the space is different. They have to be intelligent and be able to understand how to adapt. And that's one thing that you really want for your kids is their adaptability, right? You want them to know how to adapt to different situations. If you take your studio space and it's 30 feet by 50 feet, and then you move to a space that's 50 feet by 100 feet, you have to learn how to adapt. Those are obviously outrageous numbers. I've never been on a stage that size, but you have to be able to figure out your spatial awareness. You have to be able to figure out how to move in that space and to make it look appropriate for the size of the room. And you have to be very on the ball to do that. You can't be a dancer who's unaware. You have to be intelligent and on the ball. You have to be focused. And these are all things that you want your kid to have, that you want your child to take into their life as they grow up. So how? How do I find a dance class? How do I choose a studio? We will deep dive into some of these topics in future episodes, but the basic overview of how is Google. Google's our friend, it's going to help us. But there's a little bit more to it than that. You can Google dance classes in your city, and it will give you a list of studios that offer classes. You can be more specific, toddler dance classes, preschool dance classes, all the studios will generally come up. But then it's how to choose the studio. For younger dancers, a lot of the choice is going to be scheduling for parents, the timing of the class, the day of the week. But you have to really be aware that you can't just go with the first choice because it fits your schedule. You really want to find the correct fit for you. A lot of dance studios have different philosophies. Some might be more highly competitive, some might be more exam focused, some might be more recreational. These are all great options for you, but you need to know what you're looking for. And how you choose is you do your research. Look at the teachers listed on the websites. Do your research and find the accreditation sites for these different things and see if they are listed as an accredited teacher. Not all of the accredited teaching programs have their teachers listed, but you can find out for sure who is different, has different accreditations. And be aware that if they aren't worded in a certain way, they are not an accredited teacher. They may have only taken student level exams. So you have to really do your research and know what you're looking for. There are a variety of different syllabi that offer teacher accreditation, and so you have to do your own research and ask the questions. So that's a general overview of a few of those questions that come up frequently. We totally understand that being a first-time dance parent can be intimidating and overwhelming. However, our goal is to help guide you through that so you can confidently pursue a dance education for your child. If you have any questions, we definitely would love to hear them, and we will definitely have a Q&A episode in the future. This is just our first episode, so we wanted to get some information out to you and see how you're feeling about this. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of DanceFluent. If you would like to connect with us, we are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as DanceFluent Pod. Our website is dancefluent.com. Our email address is hello@dancefluent.com. We would love to hear your feedback and questions, as well as suggestions for future episode topics. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you on the next episode. Bye, guys.